Hey there, leader, and welcome to Conversations. And today we are speaking with Dr. David Arrington around his book, Promotable, and how to
Nice.
land your next promotion.
Mhm.
David's stated mission is to impact an entire generation of leaders. He's the principal of Arrington Coaching and Arrington Training, a much sought after coach, speaker, and leadership trainer. He partners with C-level executives and their leadership teams, increasing accountability, clarity, and focus. He is also the author of Promotable, How to Demonstrate Your Value, Highlight Your Potential, and Land Your Next Promotion, which was an Amazon #1 bestseller in multiple categories. For all you Clifton Strengths enthusiasts, Dr. David leads with strategic, maximizer, relator, focus, and positivity. Dr. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, how are you today?
I am on top of the world having the best day ever. How about yourself?
Okay, you heard it here, folks. He is on top of the world and having his best day ever. We love that.
Yes.
And I'm going to ditto that.
Nice, nice. It's yours. Take it, run with
Yes,
it.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Well, we are going to jump right in. I'm excited to have you here. I want to thank you for taking the time out. I know that you are a busy, busy, busy leader. And so I do appreciate you stopping in to Conversations and unpack this book, which again, I have right here. And
Nice.
yeah, and so it's going to be fun to hear a little bit more about that. So let's jump right in. The first question here, why is it more difficult to land a promotion today? Why is that?
Great question. Thanks again for having me. It is a pleasure to be here
Yes.
and to speak to your audience and really to unpack some of the ideas that we talk about in Promotable. So why is it tougher to land a promotion now? Well, there are some reasons that have cropped up since I wrote the book, but before I wrote the book, understand it was a love letter to Gen X, which I'm a member of. And Gen X seems to be that silent generation of leaders that get the work done but aren't being promoted as much as their boomer or millennial counterparts. And one of the reasons is because it is such a crowded job market mosh pit at the moment. You've got so many people, you've got 4 generations in the same office, all vying for the same number of positions. So you have to stand out. And it's tougher because we think boomers are leaving the scene, that they're retiring, they're going off into the sunset. Oh no, they're coming back into the marketplace. They're staying right there. They're not leaving, and they are still looking to be promoted. Millennials, and I mentioned it in the book, a Harvard Business Review study showed that while Gen Xers are doing more work than their counterparts, they're getting half the number of raises. And I deal with this and I say half the number of promotions. I deal with this right in the introduction because that's really the foundation. That's the impetus where the book came from. It was helping Gen Xers highlight their potential, demonstrate their value, and land a promotion because those promotions seem to be further and further apart. And it's tough to stand out when everyone's got the same certifications, everyone's got an MBA, everyone's got the same talents, they've got the same background and experience. So one of the things I wanted to say was you've got to stand out. You've got to have some strategic advantage, something different, a differentiator that makes you more valuable in the workplace than everyone else around you. Because in a loud, crowded
Mm,
marketplace or a workplace, if you don't stand out, you won't even be considered, honestly,
yeah,
for those promotions because most likely the people making those decisions don't know who you are.
that's right. That is so true. And you know, I loved how in the book you have, one of your thought questions was, are you closer to 0 or 2,000 investment in yourself over the last year?
Yeah.
It goes back to exactly what you're saying. How are we investing in ourselves and the
Mhm.
importance of that?
Oh, that's one of my keys to developing your potential is fundamentally you have to invest in yourself. So when I talk about a strategic advantage, I'm talking about what is it about you that's different? What skill, what training, what extra something have you done that makes you different? So if you're going through the exact same leadership development path as everyone else, if you're in that cattle chute, you're not fundamentally going to be a lot different because you have the same teachers you've gotten, the same information. It may have bounced around with your experience a little differently, but fundamentally you're going to be a lot like the leader next to you, at least from a theoretical perspective. What you've got to do is spend the money to make yourself more valuable to the organization. And most people want to, now let me step back, not want to, but most people may still be laboring under the notion that if I work long enough and hard enough and do enough of the right things, I'll be promoted because of time served. It doesn't work that way anymore. It hasn't worked that way for years. And my generation, Gen X, is demonstrating that, every single day. We're demonstrating that, yeah, you can go to work, put your head down, get the job done, and get passed over every single time. So you
Mm.
need that strategic advantage. And most people aren't spending any money on their personal development. They're expecting it to come from their company. They're expecting everyone else to invest in them. And my primary point in that chapter was no, 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 you can't do that. You've got to invest in yourself if you want to be perceived as a high performer, if you want a strategic advantage. And that investment comes in a number of different ways.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I know for myself, like before the new year happens, I'm already assessing, okay, what is it that I need to learn or where do I need to grow in my
Mhm.
leadership, and really unpacking for myself, and then attaching that to what is it? Is it a conference that I'd like to go to?
Sure.
Invest in myself that way. Is it additional training? Is it certifications? And so I think it is important for leaders to understand themselves, where they
Mhm.
want to go, right? Having that vision for themselves, but then
Yep.
what is the roadmap in order for them to get there?
You need to be thinking about it at least quarterly. And the last chapter in the book is all about having a plan. And
Yes.
in the course that goes along with this, that's on Arrington training, you'll notice we go into depth on how to create that plan so that you don't just walk away with a lot of great intentions, a lot of wonderful New Year's resolutions, a lot of great ideas that never come to fruition, because that's what most people do. Most people, they talk about it around New Year's. I want to get that promotion. I want to be this. I want to do that. And then come February, they're back to status quo because it takes work. If you're going to develop your potential, if you're going to demonstrate your value, if you're going to land that next promotion, you're going to have to work. And there's just no way around it. There's no easy way to promotions these days. There's just too many other amazing people vying for promotions. That's right. You're not the only amazing person in the world. There are
That's
a lot of
right.
other amazing people that are vying for this promotion, and you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to identify those stretch potential opportunities. You're going to have to actually invest in yourself. You're going to have to do what it takes to make yourself the best version of yourself, because
That's
that's the
right.
promotable version of yourself, not perhaps the version of you that's there right now, but the version that's maybe one or two steps ahead, where you've invested, you've been to those conferences, you've taken those courses, you've read those books, you've started to integrate the new thinking, the new ideas, the new approaches, you've changed behaviors that may have been limiting you before. You've done all those things. So now you become the person that can be promoted. I think a fundamental flaw for a lot of people is thinking that they're the way they are, it's everybody else's fault they're not being promoted.
Mm.
And that's a way of thinking. But when you take that approach, it takes all the control out of your hands. You are no longer in control. You're fundamentally adrift at sea at the whim and will of the waves and the wind. You can't really control anything. What I what I really promote here, and it's a fundamental principle of the book, is you are always in control. You
Yes.
control where you work, with whom you work, how hard you work. You control everything. And when you understand that you're in control, it means that when you see that you've been passed over for a promotion again, you see that your name didn't even come up, you just got a kind or a
Mhm.
generic form thank you letter. When you see that happening, now you're in control. Instead of being upset and saying, here we go again, and they're never going to promote me, you take control and say, okay, what do I need to do to become promoted? Can I even be promoted in this organization? Have I messed up so bad? Are there things being said about me I don't even know? What's my reputation like? Do I have a future here? Is this even what I want to do? And fundamentally, I
Great
talk about it.
questions.
Do you even want a promotion? Because a lot of people want a promotion because of the title, because, like I said, time served. You've got to ask yourself the tough questions. I think that's chapter 1 or 2, where we start talking about what those tough questions are, so you don't end up spending all this time and energy climbing a ladder only to find out that it was leaning against the wrong building.
Yeah, we don't want that ladder leaning against the wrong building.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and that goes back, having that vision. What is the vision for your leadership?
Hmm.
Regardless of what organization you're in, I think we have to have that personal vision and understand where we need to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. What role does your network play in landing a promotion? So, what role does your network play in landing a promotion?
So, for fear of not making an evergreen piece of content, but actually speaking to the times, right?
Yes.
Right now, you have an unprecedented labor market where a lot of people have been let go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very, very, very difficult for a lot of people. And that's why one of the first chapter is don't play through the pain, right? It's like realize what that toll is emotionally, because everybody deals with grief, and you got to walk through those
Yes,
stages of grief.
that's right.
But there is a percentage of the people that were let go that were rehired before the week was out. So there were people that were able to reach out to their networks. They were able to identify different people, ask them, hey, are there any openings here? Are they hiring? And before the week was out, they were able to at least have interviews, and many more were able to find new employment. So there was never a break in their employment. This is what I'm trying to say. Your network, people have said your network is your net worth, or your net worth is your network, somewhere along the lines. It goes back and forth. But people have said it, and there's truth in that, because if you have a solid network of people who understand the value you bring, have seen
Mm-hmm.
your potential, who believe in you, who understand what you can do for an organization and what you bring to the table, then you won't be out of work for long. And should you be in a situation where you just need to move to another organization to move up the ladder, then you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to make a few phone calls, connect with a few people. You'll be able to go out and golf perhaps, or meet someone for
That's
coffee
right.
and make something happen. So when it comes to your network, I believe it's an area most people overlook because they think it feels sleazy or slimy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my guarantees in this book is this is a 100% sleaze-free approach to getting promoted. So I don't give you anything that's untoward, right? I don't give you any of those playing politics and all that, stepping
Mm-hmm.
on people. No, you want a strong network, and that requires you to be the kind of person that people want to be around. It requires you going out, meeting new people. It requires you engaging people, finding out about them, understanding what makes them tick, not in a manipulative way, but just being friendly. And when
That's right.
people get to know you, then they can see value in you and see opportunities for you that you would never have seen yourself. So, being that kind of person that enjoys being around others and has taken the time to build their network, it's a benefit. I can tell you a story how in one of my jobs, oh man, way back, I was in Schlumberger. I just got into that job, hadn't been there a month yet, and the HR director came to me and offered me an assignment. It was a special assignment. I was like, okay, cool. I wasn't I was still naive enough to just say yes. I just said yes. And that was a good thing. But the reason she offered that to me, and it later it kept growing and growing and growing till I became a worldwide recruiting manager, right?
Wow.
So stretch goal and network all in
Mm-hmm.
one here, or stretch assignment and network all in one. But the reason she came to me was because over the hiring process, she'd gotten to know me, not as just a new hire, but as a human being. She saw my potential. She saw the value. I had a little experience in recruiting, and that job took me all over the world. If I hadn't said yes, if I hadn't been the kind of
Mm.
person she would have felt comfortable sharing that opportunity with, because it was a big deal, I would have never gotten it. So when it comes back to your network, and I tied stretch goals in here as well, right? And stretch assignments in here as well. When it comes to your network, you need a solid network. And that comes through time. It comes through getting to know people. It comes through being vulnerable. It comes through reaching out, which is sometimes uncomfortable because people may say no. But when I do reach out, and doing what we're doing right now. A
That's right.
great way to connect with people is to actually grab a Zoom coffee or do like this. I've done 5, 10 of these in the last couple of weeks. It's a great way to get to know people, even when we're in an age of social distancing.
Yeah, that's so true. It seems like everything comes down to relationships. Whether
Absolutely.
it's in the workplace or personal. Yeah, and when I think about what you were saying around our networks, and so many of our networks are on social media, and
Absolutely.
really showing up. And if you're looking for a promotion, it often kind of I roll my eyes at times when people are posting things, maybe not necessarily on LinkedIn, but maybe on Facebook, where it's a little bit
Hmm.
of a different network, but it still is your network. Um,
Absolutely.
and they're posting things, and my antenna goes up, and I'm like, gosh, if I were going to hire you, if I was looking at you, to hire you, would I hire you based on what you're
No,
posting?
no. And that's what people don't see. It's a really good point. A part of your networking is what you don't say. So everyone has struggles at work. Everyone has difficulties. But if you're one of those people that likes to harp on those and focus on those, and you want to air dirty laundry all the time,
Mhm.
like you just said, people are watching. And those people
Yes.
that could offer you opportunities, that could make space for you, won't do it because they don't want that toxicity with them.
Hmm.
They'll keep you at arm's length, and they will move you from potential to acquaintance, and they may not even return your phone calls because of the way we present ourselves online. And a big part of it is just what you're not saying. Are you encouraging? Are you someone who can find the positive? Are you someone who always plays devil's advocate? Are you someone who can always find the dark cloud around a silver lining? Are you that person? And I'm going to be honest with you, if you can't muster that joy, that positivity, and it's hard for some people, I get it. It comes
Mhm.
naturally for me,
Yes,
but
it does.
for some people, it doesn't. Even if you can't go that far, you still don't want to be negative. It's better to say nothing than to say something negative because the internet never forgets.
That's right. The internet never forgets.
Hmm.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah, well, let's pivot here and talk about
Sure.
meetings. So, how does the way you run meetings impact your promotability?
That's another great question. I was working with a client this week, and that was the first thing we started working on because meetings they cut across several levels. One, it's how you get your team on the same page. Two, it's how you make sure that uh, things are actually getting done. And three, this is generally the one time you're able to demonstrate leadership with everyone in the room. And when I'm talking about meetings, let me be very clear because there's many, many different types of meetings. I'm talking about the meetings where you're the one in control, where you're leading the meeting with your team. So, I mean, there are other dynamics when you're a leader at a meeting of other leaders. That's something else. But for the scope of this question, let's just deal with that. So when you're in a meeting and you're leading that meeting, if you don't look like you have a clue, if your people leave meetings scratching their head, if they don't understand what they're supposed to get done, I'm pretty sure you've already seen this played out in the real world. It's confusion. There's a lot of friction. Things aren't getting done. Excuses are being made. People are kind of at each other's throats because everyone's stepping on each other's toes. And when it comes to increasing your influence and really showing your value, highlighting your value, what you have to do is you have to take your meeting moments and control them to the point where you can actually move the ball, where you can get things done
Mhm.
in your meetings. And I've worked with a number of leaders who have started out with 3 and 4 hour meetings. And I've sat through, and I can't sit through them because I've already got my own pet peeves. I talk about those, some of my bad meeting experiences in the past, which make me hyper aware to bad meetings. But when we start working together, I had one client who had bragged to me, said she had gotten her meetings down from 3 hours to an hour and a half. I said, before we're done, you'll have that meeting down to under an hour. And she looked at me, she was like, David, there's nowhere else we can cut. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to get this down to under an hour. Last time I talked to her, her meetings were like 65 minutes. And she was like, David, I know it's not, I was like, that's awesome.
That's
I was
improvement.
like, oh my goodness, that was a win. I took that as a win. But the thing is, so much time is wasted in meetings. And when that time is wasted, it functions as a morale killer. It lessens people's accountability, their clarity. They don't even know what they're supposed to do. So they leave the meetings and they go off and do their own thing. And fundamentally, if you can control your meetings, you're going to be able to increase accountability, increase morale, increase productivity, and demonstrate that you can run an organization, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you can run good meetings, you have the foundational skill set to actually run larger and larger responsibilities within an organization. And people don't think about that. They go through meetings and they do what they saw done before, and the meetings drag on. There's no clear follow-up. There's no clear action items. Every meeting is Groundhog's Day, and that's a clear sign that you're not ready for greater responsibilities within the organization. And just so you know, I have a completely 100% free course on leading meetings that don't suck on
Right.
arringtontraining.com. So if any of your listeners are interested, I go over this, and I even recommend it to my clients when that's a big deal. It's like 15 minutes. It's absolutely free. And I go through very quickly how to make sure your meetings run on time. And one client I just put through that, he said, man, David, I put almost every bit of it to work. I put it,
That's
everything works.
good.
And the response was immediate. After the very next meeting, his team of leaders were saying, man, this is great. Thank you. Great meeting. This is awesome. And what it does is it galvanizes people. Good meetings galvanize, bad meetings demotivate.
They sure do. I mean, when I think about, sitting in a lengthy meeting, I mean, by the end, people's eyes are glazed over. You don't even remember, what was the agenda? Why are we here? What are
Agenda,
the
what agenda?
takeaways? Right. What are the takeaways? What
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do next? Like you said,
Yeah.
and instead of really honing in on what needs to be said and worked on during those
Or even better
meetings.
yet, why was I here? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so what was my point here? I just came in and sat, I lent my ears. I mean, the statistics on bad meetings are grave. I mean, one statistic said that I believe 80% of a manager's work week is spent in meetings,
Oh
right?
gosh. Yeah.
So that's
Yes.
meetings they're in and meetings they're leading. I mean, if you're looking at that over do the math, if that manager's being paid $60,000 a year, that's about 40,000 of it, 40 to
Mm-hmm.
50,000 of it is spent in meetings that are often unproductive. I mean, that's one of the first things I do when I come in to help organizations. I start sitting in their meetings and find out very quickly
Mm-hmm.
why things are going tragically wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, make sure you hop on and listen to that. Tune into it's a video, right? Is it a
Yeah,
video?
they're videos.
Yep.
They're all
Yep.
videos.
Video. All right. So, what are your top 3 keys to landing your next promotion?
So I guess the first one would be feedback. Feedback is your best friend, because if you
Yes.
can accept feedback, you have the opportunity to grow. And
Mm-hmm.
with that, I'll just double up. Not only just accepting feedback, asking for feedback, it puts you in a vulnerable position, and some people aren't comfortable there. I get that, but you got to get past that. If you're going to
Mm-hmm.
lead, the best things happen outside of your comfort zone.
Sure
So
do.
you're going to want to get comfortable asking for, receiving, and then implementing the feedback you get. So that would be the first thing I would say. You want to start asking for feedback. And in the book, I give a quick and dirty 360, so you can start getting some feedback from your colleagues and trusted peers. heavy
Yeah.
emphasis on trusted. You don't want to ask people that are your nemesis. Uh, you don't want to ask people that don't like you too much. Second, I would say get to know what your boss is up to. What do they need? So that you can actually begin to focus in on what they're pushing toward and what their goals are. Because once you can say, this is what my boss wants, this is what my boss is looking for, it helps you to identify what you need to be working on. Then your conversations with your boss shift from him or her managing you to you two being more along the lines of partners, achieving the goals that are most important to your boss. So I'd make sure you
Mm.
understand what your boss's goals are. And finally, I would go back to just investing in yourself. I would double down on that, because it's going to be one of the key ways you create a strategic advantage and some distance between yourself and others. So just what we've talked about today, I feel I've given a ton of value. There's a lot of good stuff that you can act on in this course, but just hearing it isn't enough. You've actually got to act on what we've talked about today. And that's the critical element. You can buy all the courses, you can get all the coaching, but if you don't take those steps, so here's my bonus number 4, start doing the hard work of becoming a promotable leader. And that requires you, like I said, to get those strategic advantages of the courses, the conferences, whatever you can get your hands on. And then you implement, do the hard work. It's going to be uncomfortable until it becomes a habit. Just like me saying,
Yes.
on top of the world, best day ever. It's a reflex now. I don't think
Hmm.
about how my day is. I define how my day is. I don't,
That's
my
right.
day isn't a result of all of the things happening around me. It's a mindset, it's a choice, it's a decision. And that's what you've got to make, a decision that you're going to not only hear good stuff, take in all this good stuff, but actually begin to act on this good stuff so you can become the promotable leader that we all know you can be.
That's right. And, what you said right there is so important because, we can go to all the conferences in the world, we can get all the certifications, but if we're not, coming back for those conferences and incorporating what we've learned, it just lands in training and not development.
Yep.
So, when leaders are, saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, well, that's fine and dandy. But what are you doing after the fact?
Mhm.
What are those takeaways and how are you implementing those practical steps into your everyday leadership? Which I think is there's a disconnect many times with leaders understanding that development versus just training. And we
Exactly.
need both. We need
Mhm.
both for our
Yeah,
leaders.
absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you unpacked an awful lot for the audience, and I would love to be able to connect the audience with you. So how can I know you mentioned your training and your coaching. So how can people connect with you?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Kelly. They
Yes.
can find me on arringtoncoaching.com. That's where we do fundamentally a lot of the coaching. We have arringtontraining.com, where we do training, and we are spinning up currently our momentum leadership community, which is, it's a lot of fun. We're already at capacity for our first 3 month stint. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. So we already have a waiting list that's growing. So if they'd like to get on the waiting list for that, that would be at arringtontraining.com/momentum, or there's a link on Arrington Training. And they could grab a hold of me. The easiest way to connect with me is you'll see me on LinkedIn almost every day. So
Yes.
if you go on LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard you on Dr. Kelly's podcast, love to connect, I will absolutely connect with you. I don't connect with everyone. I am not trying to be a lion. I am trying to develop a uh, very much meticulous network, because you want that. You don't just want 20,000 people. You'd like to have 20,000 people that know who you are and
That's right.
actually like you and respect what you do. So I will connect with you if you say, hey, I was on I heard you on Kelly's podcast, would love to connect. That will get you right in the door. So those are the three. I mean, I'm also on Twitter all the time. That's I know you'll have links to all this at the bottom, Kelly, but those are the primary places where people can get a hold of me.
All right. Well, that sounds good. And I will say that Dr. David has amazing videos on LinkedIn all the time, just about every day. So take a look at those. They're, just what are they? 1-2 minutes typically.
Yeah,
They're
2 minutes.
short.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're short. They're easy. They're packed with value. So I would encourage you to do that, as well as visit arringtoncoaching.com, arringtontraining.com, and see what Dr. David has for your needs in your leadership.
Yeah, and they can always sign up for the the newsletter, where we send out a lot of. I forgot all about the newsletter, so that's my bad.
Right.
But
And
yeah,
then there's that.
yeah, I know this. Yeah, and then there's the newsletter you get on arringtoncoaching.com. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you again for just unpacking for the audience, about how to get a promotion, some of those steps that they need to take and really implement in work. Like you said, do the hard work. If you're looking to raise the value that you bring to your organization or even to yourself, that's part of it, is stepping in and doing the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, Kelly, for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
And thank you for, getting the book and sharing the book. I really appreciate that. And that's, it means a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. And I know that we're going to have you on again, because you've got another great topic that we're going to talk about in the future.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, ma'am. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.